Welcome students to Unit 11. In this section, we're still in Chapter 8 of Layman's book. We're entering Section 2. So you're required to read Chapter 8, Section 2. And we're still in proofs. We're moving into proofs. But in this section, Layman introduces the 5 equivalency rules. So whereas the previous unit, we dealt with the 8 implication rules, now you're being introduced to totally new rules, and these are equivalency rules. And for this quiz for this unit, quiz 8, you are to identify these first 5 equivalency rules. So you need to know them, and like all the implication rules, they are in the front cover of the book, all the implication rules and the equivalency rules. So you need to identify these first 5 rules and any bold terms in the section, and you also need to know and note these rules of thumb that Layman starts to give in these sections. He gives rules of thumb that are good to remember and good tips as you do proofs. For this quiz, you need to know these 5 equivalency rules, any bold terms in the section, and the rules of thumb in that section. So when it comes to logical equivalency, remember, 2 statements are logically equivalent if they imply one another. So a very simple example is negation. So P is equivalent to not P. So if you negate a negation, it becomes the positive, it becomes P. So P is equivalent to not P. So those P and not P are logically equivalent. So within truth functional logic, which is what we're using, that's based around the truth function of the logical operators, if we replace one part of a compound statement with anything that is logically equivalent to that part, the resulting compound statement will have the same truth value as the original statement. And so that's the helpful thing about logical equivalency, is that we can replace a atomic component of a compound statement with what is logically equivalent to that with that component, and it won't change the truth value of the whole compound statement. So if I have a compound statement that has P in it, if I have not P and Q, I can replace that not P with P, or vice versa, without changing the truth value of the entire compound statement. And so that's the helpfulness of logical equivalency, because you may need to do that at times in order to get something you need to use somewhere else in your argument, to deduce something you're needing later on in the argument. So take note of that. One special tip for this unit is that implication rules can only be applied to the whole line. So you have the premise that's numbered, let's say premise 5. Premise 5 and premise 6, you can only use implication rules on the whole line. So if premise 5 is if P then Q, and I have P in premise 6, I use P on premise 5 to get Q via modus ponens. So I use the implication rule on whole lines. I can only use it on whole lines. Equivalency rules, because of the way equivalency works, like we've said, you can use on parts of lines, because by replacing that part, you're not changing the truth value of the whole, because that part is logically equivalent to what you're replacing it with. So equivalency rules can be used on parts, and implication rules have to be used on whole lines.